Hi, Steve here with my weekly diet update. Okay, I've been on vacation for 2 weeks. So my diet kind of went out the window like Marty Jannetty in a barber shop. So I don't even know what my body fat percentage is right now. I don't know how much I weigh. I don't even want to check. I haven't done any working out over my vacation, and all I've eaten is junk food. So I'm going to start hitting hard with the gym and the diet next week, get back on track. I still feel pretty good. It feels like I didn't put on any weight, but who knows. That stuff gets piled on quick once you start eating the fast food. So anyway, I've been off of work for 2 weeks. I spent a week on the road traveling. My wife and my family drove up to Idaho to see the solar eclipse. And then while we were up in that part of the world, we went and saw Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons. And we went up to see my grandpa in northern Idaho. So, yeah, just eating a bunch of junk food along the way, snacks and everything in the car. No working out. I maybe swam a few laps at the hotels we stayed at, but nothing much more than that. Maybe a little bit of hiking around at Yellowstone. Other than that, nothing. I saw a lot of pretty stuff. I don't know if it was worth driving that far, but it was very pretty for a minute, looking at that black hole sun. It looked like a big ring in the sky with flames coming off of it. It looked really neat. I try to take pictures, but my camera doesn't do it justice. So, okay, so I had to put up with all of that driving and all of that boring total eclipse stuff and the geothermal activity and the pretty scenery that was created by volcanoes and glaciers and all that boring stuff. So my wife let me stop at a couple video game stores. So I'll show you the stuff I picked up on my road trip. I wasn't looking for deals on my road trip. I was just looking for stuff I wanted to buy for my collection, and I found some pretty good deals on stuff I wanted to buy. All of these games I found were games that I actually wanted. I wouldn't spend this much money on games at thrift stores or yard sales unless they were something really good, but these are games I wanted for my collection, so I'll show you what I got. Okay, we stopped at this place, Press Play to Start, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is a really pretty town, a big pretty lake. Very green, very blue water, everything. My grandfather lives in Post Falls, right next door to Coeur d'Alene. Very beautiful place. But this video game store we stopped at, I think I'd been there before, but it changed locations this time. It was by the lake now. Anyway, it had a big selection. I don't have very many retro video game stores in my area, so it's cool to go out and see places like that because I never see them normally. The game I found there was James Bond 007 for Nintendo Game Boy, and I actually played this in the car on the way home. I didn't beat it yet, but this was a game I was looking for because I'm a huge James Bond fan, and I have to buy anything James Bond, and I never really knew about this until recently. I don't know how I missed out on this, but I really missed out on a good game. From what I played of this, it's really good. It reminds me a lot of the Zelda Game Boy game, maybe combined with Resident Evil and Metal Gear. A lot of puzzle solving, a lot of action. You map your items to the A and B button, similar to the Zelda for Game Boy. I think it's called Link's Awakening, the Game Boy game. Yeah, but this really reminds me of the James Bond version of Zelda. You play, each level is a different country, and you have certain objectives, like you have to steal a file or take somebody out. It's a really fun game. It reminds me of like Zelda dungeons. You can find weapons and clues to unlock other areas. After every mission, you go back to MI6 and you talk with Moneypenny and M, and you go to the Q lab and pick up new gadgets you can use on your next mission. And then sometimes when you're out at a different country on a mission, out in the field, you can find Q's lab hidden somewhere. You go find Q's lab. He'll give you new gadgets to help you on your mission. Sometimes you can go into the city's casinos and play blackjack or poker or the roulette. There's all kinds of stuff to do in this game. Like I said, it's really a big exploration game like Zelda. And then it's really cool too. At the end of every level, you fight a boss or something. Yeah, very similar to Zelda. You find puzzle pieces to unlock new areas. You finally get to a boss. The first level was pretty cool. You have to steal a file, and then you fight the boss. And then after you beat the boss, you take the file, you run away. It starts playing the 007 music, and you're beating up the guards on the way back to the dock. And you get out of there. You go back to MI6. It's really cool. Anyway, enough about that. Okay, same place. I got the Art of Fighting Anthology. I've really wanted this game for a long time. I loved Art of Fighting when I was a kid. I have a lot of these anthology compilations for the SNK fighting games. Like I have the World Heroes and the Fatal Fury. But I didn't have Art of Fighting, and I wanted to get this because I had never even played Art of Fighting 2 or Path of the Warrior. This has Art of Fighting 1, 2, and Path of the Warrior. Art of Fighting 3, I guess. So I guess there was 3 of them. I didn't even know about it. But yeah, this was a really fun game to me. It was really hard. I remember once my buddy and I rented this, and it took us all night to get through the game and beat the boss. The final boss is so hard on Super Nintendo. Of course, I didn't have a Neo Geo back then, and I didn't have the quarters to spend on beating this game. I would have spent $100 on this, beating this at the arcade, Art of Fighting 1. Anyway, so I played Art of Fighting 1, and it's just as cool as I remembered. It's really, really hard. Like, you think Street Fighter 3 is hard, Gil is hard. Man, pretty much the last 3 bosses on this are as hard as anything. And I played it on normal. It took me about an hour to beat the final boss. I had beaten him before, but man, it is just really tough to beat this last boss, Mr. Karate. I think I played him for an hour without maybe winning more than 2 rounds. Then all of a sudden I beat him 2 rounds straight, and I beat the game, and it was on normal. It was so hard. I put it on hard to play it, but I couldn't even pass the 4th guy. I feel like I'm pretty good at Street Fighter. Like, I can beat Street Fighter 2 on hard with 1/4 or without using a continue. But man, this is just difficult. And then I played Art of Fighting 2. I could not beat that even on normal. I'll have to give it another go. Anyway, yeah, Art of Fighting Anthology. This is a game I've wanted. I spent $13 on it. I'm sure I could have found a better deal, but like I said, I never see it, and I don't want to go to the trouble of ordering it online and paying shipping and handling and all that. The next place I went to was called the Game World in Spokane, Washington. And that was a pretty cool place. I never see stuff like that around here. It was just a huge store packed with any kind of video game you can imagine. Just rows and rows of video games. I could have been there all day, but I had my wife and my daughters with me, and they kind of think that type of thing is boring. But anyway, a game I was looking for, I found there is James Bond 007 The Duel for Sega Genesis. No case and the card is thrashed, but I really wanted this game. James Bond 007, it's a little side-scrolling action game. I never really played it, but I've always wanted it. It has Timothy Dalton on the cover, and that's rare for a James Bond game, and I've always liked Timothy Dalton as James Bond. So I can't wait to play through this. From what I've seen, it looks pretty good, and you fight a lot of the bosses who are James Bond henchmen from the movies. I eventually want to get this with a case just for my collection, but for now, I didn't know if I'd ever see it anywhere else. So I got James Bond 007 The Duel for Sega Genesis. Next place I stopped at was Trade-A-Game in Spokane, Washington, on the same street as the other place, the previous Game World, maybe like a block away from each other. It was kind of in a bad neighborhood. There were bars all over the windows, but once I got into that place, it was really cool. It reminded me of an old Blockbuster Video. When I went in, it had boxed Super Nintendo and Genesis games arranged on the shelf like old video stores, and then just rows and rows of anything from Atari all the way up to PS4. It reminded me of a Blockbuster, and it smelled like a Blockbuster. I don't know if you remember how video stores used to smell back then. It smelled like that. So anyway, I picked up Art of Fighting. I already got it on that collection for PS2, but this is the one I played when I was a kid, and I never see it anymore, so I picked it up. Thanks to Mr. Turner there, whoever owned this before. Yeah, so picked up Art of Fighting. I always liked all of these SNK Neo Geo fighting games back then. I actually saw 2 boxes of this on the shelf, and I asked if is it with the box for $10? But the gal that worked there said, oh, the owner just likes to have the boxes on display and he doesn't want to get rid of them. And I don't blame him. It looked nice, all the Nintendo cases on display up on the shelf. It looked like an old video store, and it had the price of the game on them. So I really liked this place, Trade-A-Game in Spokane, Washington. The 2 kids working there were really nice. Yeah, that's about it for my pickups over my vacation. I haven't really had any luck at the thrift stores or anything. I did go trade a bunch of games at GameStop. I had a bunch of games with no cases. They were just like loose discs I've acquired, and some cartridges I didn't really want. I got a boatload of them when I took them all to GameStop. I was inspired by Hobbs' video, where he went around and found a bunch of games at yard sales and then took them to GameStop when they had their bonus trade-in value, and they had an extra 60% over here at this GameStop. But I remember he got like a couple $100 for like $70 worth of stuff he acquired at thrift stores and yard sales. I go, man, I should do that. Take him to GameStop and get that extra trade-in value. So I got about $140 at GameStop with a bunch of trade-in stuff that I never really spent much money on. So I'm going to save that credit and use it to get a Nintendo Switch, or maybe an Xbox One X eventually. I don't really need that type of stuff now, but it's nice to have money put away for when I really do want that. Anyway, I'm trying to clear out my collection of stuff I don't really want and make more space around here. I've just been playing a few games recently. A lot of Final Fantasy 12. Man, this game is long. I'm at about level 50, and I put about 80 hours into it. I'm still enjoying it a lot. It's starting to get really hard, though. I hope I can finish this. This will be the first Final Fantasy I've ever completed. The first Japanese role-playing game I've ever completed. I'm really liking this game. And of course, I've been playing James Bond 007 for Game Boy. I'm kind of getting stuck on this, so I might look online for some hints. I haven't looked for any hints on this yet. I'm trying to get through it without looking for any hints, just try to do it myself, but if it gets too difficult, I might have to look for hints. This one, I might look for hints. I don't know. And then, of course, Art of Fighting. I've been playing that a lot. This is just a really hard game. If anyone has access to any of these games, I challenge you to try to beat it on hard. I could get nowhere on hard. Maybe 4 guys in. It was hard enough to beat it on normal. I was starting to get blisters on my fingers. Okay, that's about it for this week. I'll see you next week with my diet update. I can't wait to get back to working out and getting more progress with my diet. So hopefully I'll have some good news next week with my diet. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.